demons who beat you to a pulp before sending you to hell, doppelgangers snatching bodies, zombie riffs good enough to bring a dying genre back to life. There are plenty of great foreign horror shows that you can watch right now. Netflix's Black Spot is a spooky Belgian series that takes place in the Twin Peakish town of Villefranche. Surrounded by vast and mysterious forests, the town is quiet and remote, making the fact that the town's murder rate is 6 times the national average something of an alarming anomaly. The head of the town's police, Major Lorena Weiss, is doing what she can to solve the murders and break the mounting tensions between the residents. But she has the added complication of newcomer prosecutor Franck Sereny. While poking around where he isn't wanted, Sereny uncovers some distressing things from Weiss's past that seem to indicate that the town's troubles are long-standing and more disturbing than anyone realizes.
20 years ago, you also went astray in the dark wood. It took 3 days to find you.
Black Spot is top-notch in delivering a moody, intense atmosphere. Everything in Villefranche seems to be hostile to visitors, including the bedraggled locals, the damp, depressing weather, a creepy environmental cult, the lack of cell phone coverage, and whatever that creepy creature is in the forest. The show is packed with mysteries and spooky supernatural elements that will leave you wondering whether there's a serial killer on the loose, or maybe, just maybe, the forest itself is just fed up with the town and its citizens. What is it with small towns and terrifying secrets? Max's Spanish horror series 30 Coins follows the story of Father Vergara, an exorcist with a troubled past, who is living in the mountaintop town of Pedraza, Spain. Vergara's life takes a hard left turn when a local farm reports their cow has given birth to a human child. From that strange beginning, things only get weirder, as Vergara partners with Paco, the mayor, and Elena, the town's veterinarian, to try and figure out what is happening. Amid the mystery, they discover one of the 30 pieces of silver paid to Judas Iscariot for betraying Jesus. These coins are said to give the owner vast power, and a very influential sect of the Catholic Church is determined to retrieve the coin at all costs. Each episode seems to delve into different horror tropes, yet it all holds together to present an ominous story that unflinchingly displays its monsters in broad daylight. 30 Coins does an excellent job of weaving in lesser-known biblical lore and mythology to create a believably twisted world that feels fresh and new in comparison to other Christian-based horror. Loosely based on Slavic mythology, Cracow Monsters is about the cursed city of Cracow, Poland. The show, streaming on Netflix, posits that in ancient times, an evil entity terrorized the city and forced the people to sacrifice children to it. Eventually, a hero rose up from the masses and managed to kill the monster and end its reign of terror. Or so everyone thought. In the modern day, we meet a group of medical students led by a mysterious professor that are collecting people with magical and otherworldly powers. They discover Alex, the descendant of the mythical hero, and seek to help her understand her hidden powers. Unfortunately, due to cosmic coincidence, a construction worker accidentally digs up an ancient artifact that takes control of him and guides him to serve the evil entity, who has returned in the body of a young boy and is regaining its strength. The fight between the students and the entity's servants leads Alex to learn more about her powers and the strange glowing creature that keeps saving her life. Also on Netflix, the Dutch horror series Aries takes a look at the societal elite and proposes that there might be a sinister reason behind why those people have been so successful in life. The story follows Rosa, an extremely ambitious first-year medical student who feels held back from the life she wants by her lack of wealth. After being passed up for an important internship, Rosa is approached by an exclusive student society called the Aries. Although her good friend Jacob warns her to keep away from the group, Rosa joins the Aries and quickly comes face to face with just how far she's willing to go to obtain the power and wealth she truly desires, and at what cost.
Are you sure you want this?
Nano, the lead character in the Thai series Girl from Nowhere, seems like a normal transfer student. She's pretty, affable, and quick to make friends. So why is it that she transfers to a new school each episode? Well, the problem with Nano is that she is less of a student and more of a malignancy that targets troubled students and gives them the opportunity to be their worst selves. Each episode begins with Nano starting at a new school and finding someone to terrorize. It usually begins with her insinuating herself into their friendship and then encouraging them in different ways, fostering their worst impulses, and eventually helping them destroy themselves in the process. While Nano might seem human to begin with, viewers will quickly realize that she might be something much more sinister, capable of spreading ruin wherever she goes. This series is on Netflix.
Next time, I might be the new student at your school. So be prepared. See you soon.
One well-known monster that doesn't often get enough screen time is the doppelganger. But in this Italian supernatural drama on Netflix, there are plenty to go around. Curon focuses its tale on the titular small town in northern Italy, where two fraternal twins have been dragged to their mother's hometown to avoid their father. Neither teenager is very happy about having to move into the family's nigh-abandoned hotel, nor about transferring to a new school in the middle of nowhere. But they're making the best of it. The real problem is, everyone in town seems to have a vendetta against their family. Add to that a creepy tower in the middle of a lake that supposedly can drive a person crazy if they hear its bells tolling, and you have the start of an intriguing story. It only gets wilder once the twins realize that some of the people have been replaced by their doppelgangers, and they can't afford to trust anyone. The twins must try to save their mother from the creatures before it's too late. Post-Mortem No One Dies in Skarnes is a dark comedy from Norway that has arrived on Netflix. The main character, Liva Halengen, is found dead in a field, and without thinking, the police phone the local undertaker, her brother, Odd, to come and pick her up. Fortunately for Liva, she awakens on the autopsy table with no memory of what happened. Everyone is overjoyed at her second chance at life. Everyone, that is, except for her father. He begins acting strangely around Liva, and eventually knocks her out with chloroform and tries to burn her alive in the crematorium. Liva escapes, accidentally killing her father in the process, and returns home, unable to make sense of what just happened. Alongside Liva, we watch as she tries to understand her father's motives and slowly becomes aware of some dark, sinister truths about her mother's supernatural nature, which she now shares. Saddled with the knowledge of her origin, Liva spends the rest of the show exploring the events that led up to her death, as well as the challenge of navigating the real world as a supernatural predator. Much of the show's horror is intercut with humor from the ridiculous situations the characters find themselves in. If you love horror but want something a little on the lighter side, Post-Mortem No One Dies in Skarnes would be a great fit. The French series Marianne explores the classic trope of a writer whose creations haunt them in real life. Best-selling author Emma Larzaman wants to be done with writing horror, but it seems like her horror isn't quite done with her. When Caroline, an old friend from home, shows up at Emma's book signing, it's obvious something is deeply wrong. Caroline begs Emma to return home, as she believes her mother has been possessed by a witch named Marianne, a character from one of Emma's stories. Emma, of course, can't believe Caroline's bizarre accusations, but feels compelled to search for answers once Caroline hangs herself publicly. Emma and her assistant Camille return to Emma's hometown, and realize that it's not just Caroline's family that is suffering Marianne's curse. As more and more strange things happen, Emma comes to realize that the things she writes become reality, and that she must try to stop the witch herself. It's on Netflix. Ju-on Origins, a Japanese series that presents itself as the true story behind the events of the original The Grudge films, sets the stage for the iconic horror franchise. The show builds slowly, but the brutal violence mixed with the spooky supernatural elements make for an intriguing watch. Ju-on Origins jumps around in the timeline, but the basic premise is that an actress, Haruka Hanjo, has experienced a haunting that she believes started with her boyfriend Tetsuya. In trying to find a home for them both, Tetsuya visits a house where he is confronted by the ghost of a woman wearing white. From that moment, he becomes haunted by it. Brutal things happen in that house, and it appears that anyone who visits it winds up cursed in some way.
Seriously, you think anyone would believe it? A house that brings disaster to anyone who lives in it?
To solve the mystery behind the curse, Haruka teams up with paranormal investigator Yasuo Odojima and child protection agent Kimie Ariyasu. Unfortunately for our protagonists, the curse is a powerful, sinister force, and the show pulls no punches on just how bad things can get. You can watch the series on Netflix. Feria the Darkest Light at first feels like a pretty familiar creepy cult movie, but its location in Spain in the mid-90s gives it some really engaging character. Set in a remote village in the Spanish countryside, the local mine becomes a centerpiece of a mystery when 23 people are found naked and dead just outside its entrance. They have no visible wounds, but a security camera managed to capture footage of the group leaving the mine and collapsing as if poisoned. The immediate suspects behind this bizarre slaughter are the parents of two teenage girls, Sophia and Eva, whose lives are turned upside down by the investigation, and the fact that a group of sinister cultists has taken an interest in recruiting Sophia so that she can further their dark agenda. Feria takes a few truly unexpected twists that will have you wondering just who the bad guys might actually be, as an otherworldly threat begins to reveal itself amidst the cultish horror. It's on Netflix. Asia has given us some of the most inventive, terrifying horror from the last couple of decades, and the Max anthology Folklore illustrates that fact. Directors from different countries, including Indonesia, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines, helm each episode. Created by Singaporean director Eric Koo, the episodes deliver enough allure to be bingeable, but also enough diversity to enjoy as distinct entities. Like most anthologies, not every episode rates equally in quality, but they're all intriguing and give you something to chew on. One of the best of the group? The very first episode, A Mother's Love, which follows a single mom struggling to support her son. She decides to squat in an old mansion she's been hired to clean and discovers something much worse than a haunted house. Folklore takes ancient stories and applies them to modern situations, a blend of storytelling conventions as frightening as it is thought-provoking. With so many zombie series out there, it can be hard to wade through the bad to find the good. The South Korean series All of Us Are Dead, streaming on Netflix, offers a clever take on the zombie genre that belongs squarely in the good category. The series depicts Korean high school as a dangerous, hellish place, even before the arrival of the zombies. The social hierarchies that define Korea on a national scale intensify at the school, and the students deal with terrible conditions like bullying, suicide, stifling pressure, and economic inequality.
Either I die or they die. It won't get better until someone dies.
The show is brutal and bloody as expected, and the social critiques hit just as strikingly as the gore. Even with the threat of a zombie takeover, the students still maintain their prescribed roles, though things get shaken up as the situation becomes more dire. Both a coming-of-age story and an undead horror show, All of Us Are Dead rates as an inspired take on an oversaturated genre. Television shows and films present zombies as a relatively modern phenomenon, but why should that be the case? Kingdom, Netflix's first original Korean series, investigates this assumption, setting the drama in the 16th century. The story starts with the mysterious death of the king and his son, Crown Prince Lee Chang's investigation into his father's death. He soon discovers the onset of a deadly epidemic that threatens to wipe out the entire country. The way Kingdom blends zombie horror with political intrigue makes it ingenious. The revelation that the illness that has been ravaging the country is just zombieism isn't much of a surprise, but the ongoing reveals will keep you on the edge of your seat. The story gains weight with the addition of the political narrative, which involves Lee Chang's fight to stay alive after being thrown out of his own kingdom. Two forces work against the prince, the zombies and the machinations of the crown, and both are deadly. The combination of brutal zombie attacks, beautifully choreographed sword fights, and political action elevate this one to must-see status. There are loads of shows about demon hunters, but Netflix's Diablero is one of a kind. The series follows Father Ramiro Ventura, a priest sent to save a girl from a demon. He enlists the help of Elvis Infante, a Diablero demon hunter, to find the girl. Set in Mexico City, one of the most predominantly Catholic cities in the world, the series is imbued with social commentary about Mexican culture and the place of religion in the country. Diablero contains plenty of gore and visual spooks, but also sprinkles in humor, which means it's never downright terrifying. The horror tropes are numerous, but the series' playful attitude and attention to cultural specificity make it stand out from the crowd. The apocalyptic show Sweet Home distinguishes itself from its contemporaries through its unique take on social isolation and desperation. The Korean Netflix show follows Cha Hyun-soo, a despondent young man who moves into a dilapidated apartment complex called Green Home. Hyun-soo has lost the will to live, but a series of strange events that occur around the complex force him to fight for his survival. The other residents of Green Home seem just as lonely as Hyun-soo, and they soon discover the apartment is overrun by monsters looking to pick them off one by one. What's most interesting about these monsters is that they are all unique. We learn that each creature used to be a human who gave in to their innermost desire, and the look of the monster reflects whatever desire that was. Unlike most zombie or alien invasion stories, these monsters all have their own stories to tell. The other central component of the series centers on the journey of the survivors. Green Home attracts those fleeing tragedy or loss, and most of its residents are wrapped up in their own grief or longing. To defeat the monsters, they must work together while also deciding if survival is really something worth fighting for. It's an emotional story about human nature set in a monster-filled environment, and both elements have a good deal to offer. Netflix first dipped its toes into Indian television with the crime thriller Sacred Games, and Ghoul marks the company's second attempt to tap into this arena. The three-part miniseries is part horror and part terrorist thriller, and this mix produces an intriguing result. The series unfolds in a future India, where fascism is the law of the land, and dissidents are enemy number one. Leading the series is Nida Rahim, a young secret police officer who will do anything to prove her loyalty to the regime, even if it means turning on her own family. Rahim is sent to interrogate a fearsome terrorist, Ali Saeed, but things are not as they seem. The police think they have the upper hand until Saeed begins exposing his interrogator's darkest secrets. Rahim starts to suspect that Saeed is more than a human terrorist and that something more demonic is at play. At only 3 episodes long, the show doesn't have that much ground to cover, but the tension builds nicely for such a short series.
Make the sinner realize his guilt, then eat his flesh.
Hellbound on Netflix depicts a world where people get sent to hell in the most horrific, public fashion imaginable. Golden holograms known as angels show up and tell people the date and time they will be taken to hell. Then, when that moment comes, 3 enormous gray demons beat the poor soul to a pulp before burning them alive. A horrifying premise, yes, but the series concerns itself more with the events' effects on the nation as a whole than the public demonstrations themselves. 2 cults, the New Truth Society and the Arrowhead, capitalize on the fear these incidents have created. And everyone copes with the threat of eternal damnation in their own way. The demonstrations have altered the very fabric of society, and no one is free from blame. From those who capitalize on this hellfire to those who condemn the supposedly guilty, hell seeps into every nook and cranny.